June 1944. The island of Saipan surrenders to American troops. The news reaches Tokyo, and the atmosphere inside the Imperial General Staff Headquarters turns heavy, as if the air itself has been sucked out. The room falls into a hush so deep it seems time has stopped. In the stillness, something shifts, something irreversible. One general rises abruptly, walks out without a single word, disregarding every rule of conduct. Another abandons all decorum, his hands trembling as he drops his cap and buries his face in his palms. A third remains motionless, his expression hollow, as if he has already seen the end. But what no one anticipated was the emperor's reaction: quiet, measured, and unlike anything they had imagined. When the fall of Saipan became known, Japan's military leadership grasped three chilling realities, and the first one struck with the force of a hammer. The Japanese homeland was now within reach of enemy bombers. It is July 9th, 1944. Morning light spills through the tall windows of the war room in Tokyo. A telegram has just arrived. The message is clear: Saipan has been lost. 30,000 Japanese soldiers have perished. The most senior figures of Japan's military gather in silence: generals who had once led invasions across Asia, admirals who had once dominated the Pacific seas. They stand together, reading the report, and for 5 full minutes, not a sound is made. No one speaks, no one moves. These are men conditioned since youth to suppress emotion, to remain stoic in the face of catastrophe. Yet today, the weight is too great. General Tojo stands by the window, his back turned, his fingers twitching slightly at his sides. Admiral Nagano sits rigid at the table, the paper in his hands shaking. They all know what this means. Saipan is not merely another island lost in a long chain of defeats. It is different. It is pivotal. But why? The reason lies in a simple measurement: 1,500 miles. That is the distance from Saipan to the heart of Tokyo. A stretch of open sea, yes, but one now crossed by the wings of a new and terrifying machine. General Umezu is the first to speak. His voice is low, almost inaudible. The B-29 seconds can reach us now. The words echo in the still room. Everyone understands. The Boeing B-29 Superfortress, America's latest creation, is unlike any aircraft ever built. With a maximum range of 1,600 miles when loaded with bombs, it can fly from Saipan, strike the Japanese mainland, and return. For the first time since the war began, Japan is no longer protected by distance. Every city, every industrial center, every civilian now within range. Admiral Toyoda speaks next, his voice faltering. "Our children," he begins, then stops. He cannot continue. These are hardened commanders, men who have ordered thousands to their deaths. But this is different. Their own families, their own homes, are now targets. Yet there is more, something they do not yet know, something already decided far away in Washington. The breakdown begins immediately. General Saito shatters military protocol. He stands, sends his chair clattering backward, and walks out of the room without permission, without explanation. In the rigid hierarchy of the Japanese military, such an act is unforgivable. Officers do not leave meetings. They do not show defiance. They especially do not abandon their superiors. But Saito no longer cares. The others watch him go. No one stops him. No one speaks. Then Admiral Nagano does something equally shocking. He removes his cap, places it gently on the table, and covers his face with both hands. A man of rank, a man of discipline, now weeping openly in front of his peers. General Tojo finally turns from the window. His face is ashen, as if he has aged a decade in mere minutes. "Gentlemen," he says, his voice slow and deliberate, "we must face the truth now. The truth." That phrase lingers in the air, thick and unignorable. For 3 years, the High Command has lied to the soldiers on the front lines, to the people at home, to themselves. But now, the truth can no longer be hidden. Tojo speaks the words no one has dared utter. "The numbers don't lie," he says. "We have lost the war." 5 words, spoken aloud, words that could cost him his life, his family, his honor. The other officers look at him. Some lower their heads in silent agreement. Others look away, unable to meet his eyes. But no one denies it, because the facts are undeniable. Japan's navy was shattered at Midway. Its aircraft carriers lie at the bottom of the ocean. Its finest pilots are dead. Its oil reserves are nearly depleted. And America? America is only growing stronger. General Umezu produces a report. Intelligence gathered from spies across the Pacific. The figures are overwhelming. The United States is constructing one aircraft carrier every month. One heavy bomber rolls off the production line every hour. A new fighter plane is completed every 5 minutes. How can we possibly resist this? Someone mutters under their breath. The answer is clear. They cannot. American industrial might is unstoppable, like trying to stop the tide with your hands. But the true horror lies beyond numbers. It lies in the fate of the civilians on Saipan. 20,000 Japanese civilians lived on the island when the Americans arrived, and what happened to them reshapes everything. Throughout the day, reports trickle in, details from the final days of the battle, what the civilians did as American forces advanced. Admiral Toyoda reads the report aloud. His voice breaks repeatedly. Hundreds of families, mothers, fathers, children walked to the northern cliffs of Saipan, overlooking the vast Pacific. They stood there, holding hands, and leapt into the ocean. Entire families, choosing the sea over capture. Why? Because the propaganda had told them the Americans were beasts. That capture meant torture, rape, execution. That death was the only honorable option. The generals sit in stunned silence. This is the fruit of their own deception. Their own lies have turned into a nightmare. General Anami tries to speak, but cannot finish. He doesn't need to. Everyone understands. Saipan had 20,000 civilians. Japan's home islands have 70 million. If the Americans invade Japan itself, if the people believe the same lies, if they choose mass suicide over surrender, the scale of death would be unimaginable. The Emperor must know. We must tell the Emperor, Tojo declares, his tone firm. No more delays, no more softening the news. For years, they have shielded Emperor Hirohito, feeding him stories of victories, downplaying defeats, making excuses. But Saipan cannot be hidden. It cannot be spun. The Emperor must understand. The war is over. But there is a barrier, a massive one. Japanese culture, Japanese honor, the military code of conduct. Surrender is unthinkable. It has always been forbidden. The code of Bushido, the way of the warrior, demands that one fight until death, never yield, never admit defeat. How can one tell an emperor that his empire must lay down its arms? Admiral Nagano speaks with caution. If we speak honestly, if we even suggest surrender, we could be branded as traitors. In wartime Japan, treason means execution not just for the accused, but for their families, their associates, anyone connected to them. These generals stand at a crossroads. Do they speak the truth and risk annihilation? Or do they keep quiet and watch their country descend into fire? The moment of decision arrives on July 18th, 1944, 9 days after Saipan was declared lost. Prime Minister Tojo requests an audience with Emperor Hirohito. The meeting is approved at once. Tojo enters the imperial palace quietly. No officers join him. No assistants, no observers. Only the Prime Minister and the Emperor. What is discussed between them remains unknown. There is no written account, no notes, no record of what was said. 2 hours later, Tojo leaves the chamber. His expression is calm, showing neither relief nor distress. He says nothing to the officials waiting nearby. The next day, the government experiences a major transition. Prime Minister Tojo steps down from his position. After leading the nation through years of uncertainty and expansion, he decides to resign. General Koiso is appointed as the next prime minister. Within political circles, many quietly recognize the deeper meaning behind this change. Japan has begun to consider how to bring the ongoing conflict to a close through diplomatic means that maintain stability and order. Across the Pacific, the United States maintains its firm stance. It insists that any resolution must be complete and unconditional. Soon afterward, a new phase of the air campaign begins, focused on large-scale strategic operations. On November 24th, 1944, 4 months after the loss of Saipan, alarm signals are heard in Tokyo. People look to the sky and see aircraft formations approaching. For Japan's leadership, it is a clear confirmation of what had long been anticipated. The situation has entered a decisive stage. In the following months, repeated aerial operations take place over major urban and industrial areas, including Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, and Kobe. Production facilities and transportation networks are heavily disrupted, impacting the nation's ability to sustain the war effort. Each operation originates from bases in the Mariana Islands, including Saipan, the same island once considered the outer defense line of Japan. By mid-1945, Japan faces severe logistical challenges. Supplies are low, infrastructure is damaged, and communications are strained. In August, after a series of critical developments, Emperor Hirohito addresses the nation and announces Japan's acceptance of peace. The global conflict that had begun years earlier, expanded across continents and oceans, now reaches its end. For many in Japan's leadership, the realization had come much earlier on, that quiet July morning in 1944, when the fall of Saipan made the outcome unmistakably clear. In that moment, the silence among the officers and the weight of understanding in the room expressed more than any words could. The fall of Saipan was not merely a territorial loss. It marked the beginning of awareness that the conflict could not continue indefinitely. From that day forward, Japan's leaders knew that history had shifted. The nation's course was set toward closure, reflection, and renewal. Saipan had changed everything.